Malaysian 370, contact Ho Chi Minh 120.9. Good night.
Good night, Malaysian 370.
Breaking news tonight, a Malaysia Airlines flight with 239 people on board, including 4 Americans, has gone missing.
From the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. Vishnu is trying to persuade the prince that he should do his duty, and to impress him takes on his multi-armed form and says, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds."
Oh, hey, everybody. How are we doing tonight? Welcome to the live stream. I am your host. This is Ashton Forbes. Tonight is Secret Science Wednesday, everybody. Sorry for the delay. I was just finishing up a podcast with Investigate Earth. I haven't been on with them in like 6 months or so. They wanted to have me on. We talked about science. We talked about the MH370 stuff. It was a good recap of some of the main pieces of evidence around the videos and digging into unification theories and zero-point energy, which is what we're going to be talking about here tonight, guys. So that's awesome. I am going to make an announcement. I'm just going to throw it out there, guys. People have been probably wondering, like, who's the big person that Ashton's planning on going on. I'm going to take a risk, and I'm going to go ahead and announce it. I'm going to be talking with Candace Owens. Candace Owens. I don't know exactly when the video will publish. It is going to be pre-recorded. So it's not going to be a situation where it's live. So there's always a possibility that something will fall through, or I don't know. I don't think it's going to be adversarial in general. What I did was I actually spoke. I actually listened. I decided to figure out like what Candace's view on the situation would be. I don't think it's going to be adversarial. I haven't really talked to her very much ahead of time. But she, I will say that she was interested in the investigation, the information that I put forward, and she wanted to know more about the science. So that's part of the reason why I've been working so hard on the science is I want to make sure I am lock tight, guys. Like, this is a situation where she's got a major platform. She's extremely professional. She's super smart as well. And there can't be any loose ends on the stuff I say. I'm going to be under the microscope, not necessarily just from Candace, but from the audience as well. So I need to make sure that everything I say can't be misconstrued, that I give the right references as well. I will be providing her a list of the references of the scientific papers based on zero-point energy as well. I've got like a dozen. So there you guys go. Should be great. Yeah, the other reason why I love Candace Owens is that she also gets a lot of hate from people because she speaks her mind. She says whatever is on her mind. So I think it's going to be personally a great conversation. I was listening. Yeah, I'm probably not going to overload her with science, but I want to make sure I throw all the names of the right scientists and the theories out there for the like scientists and the debunkers that are going to be watching. I'm probably going to say some things that are somewhat controversial but still accurate. I want to kind of, make it a little bit exciting. Right. So we'll see. It's going to be great, guys. Yeah. Consciousness is definitely rising. I've had a few other podcast requests as well. Obviously nothing as big as Candace Owens. I probably will we'll probably talk a little bit about the UFO community as well. I probably will mention Joe Rogan and some of the other, maybe probably just Joe Rogan. Probably will reference him in relation to some of the things that he's talked about and had on there as well. So we'll see. It should be great, guys. I think if it goes well, then it's an opportunity to really push this to the next level. Thank you. We Are the Change. You've been awesome, by the way, in the Discord. We Are the Change has been doing a crazy amount of research recently. But this also brings it to a new audience. A lot of the podcasts that I go on are already familiar with like the UFO topic. I looked up Candace Owens's like videos and stuff like that. As far as I know, she's never interviewed anybody related to quantum physics, 0 point energy, UFO stuff. When I Google her name related to UFO, I actually found a Tim Pool podcast from 2021. And they talk about UFOs in the first like 15, 20 minutes. Highly suggest you guys go check it out. She actually they talk about Tesla, and she brings up JP Morgan. So I was like, whoa, I thought she was going to be way more closed-minded. And she tells a story about, I think, her grandmother having seen a UFO or like, and a little green man or something like that. So honestly, I'm really looking forward to it. And it's going to be in person. So there probably won't be a Friday stream because I do have to travel this weekend. And yeah, hang out with Candace Owens and talk about her for a little bit. Should be pretty awesome. Looking forward to it, guys. There you go. Okay. Yeah, and people are going to, honestly, it's even better. If people attack Candace Owens for platforming me, that's only going to bring more attention to it. That's only going to bring more attention to the case, which is why I kind of want to be a little bit controversial, because what you see when you watch a lot of these podcasters, when they have controversial people on, like just yesterday, I think it was Tucker Carlson had a guy on who was talking about the history of World War II. And next thing you know, it's got 24 million views because people are saying this guy's a sympathizer with the Nazi movement and things like that. It's like, and I listened to it, as he wasn't saying that at all, but he was just basically saying like history is not quite as glamorous as we imagine it to be, which is of course true. So yeah, should be good, guys. Looking forward to it. Hopefully revealing this too soon isn't a problem, but I'm just going to take the shot at it. You know, hopefully no one's going to try to mess with my interview or try to tell her to cancel or anything like that. I don't think they will. She's a pretty smart lady, and I don't think she's going to be controlled by anyone. So I get to try to convince Candace Owens that 0 point energy and wormholes are possible. I'm super excited about it. That's why I had to tell you guys. It's been hard to keep it secret, honestly. Okay. What are we talking about tonight, though? Tonight, we are going to talk about quantum mechanics, and we are going to talk about GEM, the gravity. Let me make sure I don't butcher this. I have it up in the background. What's this thing here? Gravity it is just gravity electromagnetism unification field theory. So if you guys are not super familiar, okay, quick question. How much time is scheduled? I actually don't know. I don't know. My guess is between 1 to 3 hours. I'm going to give her as much time as she wants. If I'm going to fly out to somebody and do an in-person interview, they can have as much time as they want. The outline that we worked on, I've already given it to her producers because I wanted to show her that I'm prepared. I'm not messing around, right? And it also gives her a heads up of like, if she wants to research certain topics to become more informed, that's the point of that outline. And so I can use that for other podcasters in the future. In fact, I already sent this to another podcaster that I'm planning on talking to in a few weeks so that they can kind of look through that and, you know, ask questions related to it. We're not going to be able to get through all of that. There's too much on there, but, you know, we'll just see how it plays out. Yeah. Okay. So several weeks ago, I looked into this company, Kepler Aerospace. I found I don't know, how did I even find this? I think I was looking up like Frank Mead, because he's on the program director for a lot of these papers that Eric Davis was writing. And then I found this thing about Frank Mead being connected to Kepler Aerospace on a Reddit post. And it went in this deep dive of Kepler Aerospace. So I figured, got to check this Kepler Aerospace thing out. And I find out that there's all these scientific papers on the Kepler Aerospace website. And one of them is John Brandenburg's gravity electromagnetism unification theory. I think we might have reviewed it on stream, but I don't 100% remember. But I read through the whole thing and I was like, holy shit. This is the same 0 point energy science that I've been looking up. And I don't mean like just conceptually. I mean like he's referencing the same exact physicists and scientists, which was interesting. Like he's clearly talked with people like Hal Puthoff and things like that. So that's why, and what happened? So he went on APEC, which is is it alternate propulsion or something like that? Engineering conference. He went on APEC with Tim Ventura, who I'm occasionally in contact with as well. And he presented his slides related to the gem theory, and it got picked up. Mario Narfall picked it up, and I think maybe a few other people did. It got like over 1 million views, I think. And people may say, "Hey, you know, are you jealous of this?" I'm not jealous. My views are through the roof, by the way. And for me, this has never been about getting credit. Like, one thing that I think everybody needs to understand is, like, the people that deserve the credit for this science mostly are already dead. That's the sad part. Like, we're standing on the shoulders of giants. And so is John Brandenburg. But Brandenburg has done real research as well. So, you know, I don't think he necessarily deserves a Nobel Prize. I think the people like Hal Puthoff do. But, you know, it becomes this very nebulous situation where, like, who gets promoted in the media is not necessarily who did all the hard work. So, no, I'm not jealous at all. Anybody who's promoting this science, I'm going to elevate them, which is why I did like 2 different posts about Brandenburg's gem theory, because I want people to see, like, it's not just me saying this. There's like literal PhDs saying it. I did read a few comments on Reddit about it, because there was a thread about it there as well. People are saying, well, this is the guy that thinks that Mars was nuked. Well, yeah, because they found like a very specific isotope in the atmosphere that, like, apparently nuclear weapons is the only thing that can explain it. My one criticism, which I only have one criticism on Brandenburg, which is the same criticism I have for a lot of people, scientists, UFO people, is the moment they find out about this science and technology, everybody jumps all in on aliens. And this is a really easy way to get discredited. Because Brandenburg, as far I've read a lot of his Twitter posts, he thinks, you know, the ETs are here and they're visiting us and what have you. That's the stuff that turns people off. I don't understand why the UFO community doesn't get this. Whether or not it's true or not, it doesn't matter. Like, there's just a large amount of people that are polarized on that topic. And I don't think it's necessary either way. Like, there's so many options when it comes to aliens. I'm not ruling anything out, but I'm keeping all the options open. If people just stick with the hard physics and the hard science, then everything will fall into place. Because the moment that we show 0 point energy can induce gravity and that we can bend space-time, the moment we realize that you can make a wormhole and just connect 2 points in space and time, like a piece of paper, connect them, then a lot of people are going to go, well, wait, so can aliens get to us? And then I think that whatever the non-human intelligence phenomenon is, it's going to become revealed. So what I saw from a lot of the comments on Reddit, which was totally expected, was that people are saying, oh, well, this guy is like, he's a kook, or he said these other things that are crazy, so we're going to ignore him, right? And this is how the suppression works. His science is legit. He's promoted all the right people. As far as I can tell, the equations are legit, where he's unifying the electric force with gravity, which is actually just easy because the electric force equation and the gravity equation are basically exactly the same. They're basically exactly the same. They both have the inverse square law, which means that their charges, the charges fall off at a square of the distance. So the further apart they get, the force between them falls off exponentially. And as they come together, the force increases exponentially. This is why Einstein used to think that we should be able to unify gravity and electromagnetism. Because it's like, wait, why are these equations like exactly the same? It's like, oh, well, because one of them leads to the other. There you go. Okay. And so this is the part too, where, like, I don't judge anybody based on their beliefs. I don't care if they believe in any religion. I don't care if they don't like other religions. I don't care if they believe ETs are here or if they think that aliens are a psyop. None of that matters to me. And this is why people also, guys, like, I used to get, why are you talking to Alex Jones? Why are you talking to this person? People are probably going to say, why are you talking to Candace Owens? She's, she is, whatever. She's against, it always comes out as like anti-Semitism and things like that. I don't care, man. I don't care. I just want to talk about physics and science. I don't care what people's other beliefs are at all. So there you go. Oh, Schrodinger was a mystic. Is that true? Nathaniel, is that true, man? That's interesting if so. But that's the thing, guys. Yeah, and the science needs to be correct. It doesn't need to be corrected. Here's the funny part about the science, guys. And you're going to see this in the paper. I'm going to bring it up here in just a second. In fact, I probably need to download it. So one sec. Let me download this. The science that's out there is all accurate. It's the interpretation. It's like the little gaps. There's some gaps in it that we don't quite understand. And that's why the science that we're talking about is legit. We don't have to rewrite everything. We just have to, like Dave Rossi said on one of my first interviews with him, or actually, it wasn't even my interview. When he was on APEC with Salvatore Pais, I think he said, we have to look at old physics through a new lens. And that's exactly what it is. Einstein's correct. We can bend space-time. He just didn't unify quantum field theory, quantum mechanics with general relativity. There's only a couple things that we have to. The biggest one is the vacuum catastrophe. This idea of how much energy is in the vacuum. From a general relativity perspective, we think there's a very small amount. But from a quantum mechanics perspective, it's this huge amount. That's the biggest thing. And we just have to reconcile that. And the answer is it's the big amount is the right one. So we don't have to throw out all of physics. In fact, all the physicists that I'm referencing here are historical physicists that were well respected. And then we'll get to the answer, guys. Simple as that. So yeah, and so the last thing I'll say on this front is this science is coming out, man. So I'm going to say one more thing, which is that you've seen some of my posts where, like, and some of the posts, like I think Dave Rossi made a post on behalf of Salvatore Pais saying, like, I would never harm myself. The other day on my live stream, I got a message saying I should say this on my live stream as well. I'm not going to say any of that stuff anymore because the truth is, I don't care what happens. I want to know what I want to tell the people out there who are trying to do whatever they have to do to suppress this. Just give it up, man. This shit is coming out. I don't care who gets in my way. The more these people try to push back, the more they try to upset my friends who also know about this science, the more I'm going to push back at those people. And the difference between me and these other UFO people like Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp and Lou Elizondo and others, and I know these guys are connected, I have authenticity on my side. I'm not afraid of being wrong. I'm not afraid of telling it how I feel, truly. And these guys, they have to walk on eggshells. They have to be careful about what they say here or there because they might get caught in a lie. And if they get caught in a lie, that's it. You know how I don't get caught in a lie? I just tell the truth all the time. Simple as that. I tell you exactly what I think on any specific situation, and I live stream everything. I don't do interviews where I only get lobbed softball questions. In fact, I prefer the ones where they challenge me a little bit because it's more entertaining for people. So don't mess with me, man. The only way you're going to stop me from doing this is taking the ultimate approach. And if you do that and make me disappear, well, there's going to be a major Streisand effect. So just leave me the hell alone or just come out and admit the science is real. So I know I said the last thing, but the last thing is that have you noticed how many people are talking about warp drives all of a sudden and talking about 0 point energy? Apparently, Gary Nolan was talking about 0 point energy today. I've got DMs with him where I think I told him to look into 0 point energy. In fact, let me go look and see if I do. I'm not going to show my Gary Nolan DMs just because I don't want him to block me. He likes blocking people a lot. Let me see what I said to him, though. I mentioned Havana syndrome being linked to scalar physics. Actually, our conversation went a lot longer. Oh, he did block me? You're no longer able to send messages to this person. I'm blocked? Okay, I am going to share the DMs now. We're sharing the DMs now, chat. Why would Gary Nolan block me? I've never said anything about this guy before. And by the way, guys, this is the weirdest thing, chat. I honestly, like, I might go in on Gary Nolan over this. Like, this is weird, dude. Have you guys noticed how many UFO people have blocked me? Look at this. I didn't even notice. Like, I didn't even know I was blocked by him. I don't even know when this happened. You're blocked by Gary Nolan. You guys ready to see the DMs? Hold on. Let me pull up the DMs. Let's see if I was worthy of a block. The question you should ask yourself is, why, when I look up Lou Elizondo, why am I blocked by Lou Elizondo? Why am I blocked by Gary Nolan? Why does Jeremy Corbell and George Knapp never mention my name? Is this one him? Why am I blocked by all these guys who are literally saying the same exact stuff that I'm saying? Why would these people block you, right? I don't have any of these people blocked. Why would I care, right? I might actually bring this up to Candace Owens because this is weird, man. And the answer is pretty clear, right? I'm a threat to these people. I'm saying the stuff that they're not allowed to say. They're basically in damage control mode, information control mode. Is they want aliens to be disclosed. They want people to believe that we are hiding aliens from the world. What they don't want people to realize that we've got crazy advanced technology that could destroy the planet and that the United States government's weaponizing it, or the private military contractors, whatever, because these people are controlled as well. Anybody that's going on mainstream television, they're only saying what they're allowed to say. This is why no mainstream TV ever reaches out to me. And I talk about this on the Chad and Sherry Investigate Earth podcast, which will probably drop later tonight or tomorrow. Pretty wild, right? Pretty wild. Okay, so let me pull up the Gary Nolan DMs. How do I do this without showing all my other stuff? Okay, here we go, like this. I wonder when this happened. This had to be only in the last few months. It's funny because I have twice the number of followers that Gary Nolan has, even though he's been on, I don't know if he's been on Joe Rogan. But here's the other thing, guys. Like, Tucker Carlson said that he's friends with Gary Nolan. So you guys start to realize, like, these guys are manipulating some of the biggest personalities behind the scenes. I'm actually going to bring this up with Candace Owens. Let me write this down. Because when Tucker Carlson was on there, on Joe Rogan just asked him, are you talking about Gary Nolan from Stanford? And Tucker Carlson says, yes, I'm talking about Gary Nolan. Gary Nolan, these guys are being, like, the perceptions from Tucker Carlson and Joe Rogan are being controlled by people like Jeremy Corbell and by Gary Nolan and these other guys. This is how these guys, like, they make sure that these podcasters never get too close to the truth. It's not that they lie to the podcasters. They just never get, they try to make sure that their perception is being steered away. So when people like Jeremy Corbell tell Joe Rogan not to talk to me, to cancel my interview with him, when supposedly Jeremy Corbell is out here pretending to be for disclosure, this shows these people are frauds. Jeremy Corbell is a fraud. George Knapp is a fraud. Lou Elizondo is a fraud. It's not that what they're saying is wrong. It's that they are lying by omission to people. They're lying by omission to people. So let's read the comments here from Gary Nolan. So this was something about Jules. I don't remember. Hold on. Let me make sure I don't have any personal information in here. I don't want to accidentally reveal personal information. No, there's no personal information. This was actually a fine chat. I'm not sure what triggered him. So, not trying to call you out, sir. Highly respect your work. Just think the UFO community leaves a lot to be desired. I want people to see disclosures about a lot more than aliens. We're going to have to rewrite the law of conservation of energy. I might have been wrong on that. I don't think we're actually going to have to rewrite the law of conservation of energy. Magic is possible. I followed your work on Havana syndrome for a few years. I definitely think it's related to electromagnetic effects. I humbly suggest looking at Tom Bearden's work from the 80s on scalar physics. I think it's the missing link for how we don't quite understand the science. Specifically, Maxwell's equations being rewritten to remove the scalar potential, the stress in the medium. If you pull a rope from both sides, the net force cancels out, but you pull hard enough, the rope will rip apart. Keep up the good work. I'm not your enemy or anyone else's. Oh, I know. If I thought you were the enemy, I would not say. That's weird. Mostly I was responding because people think that they bring up something controversial, I'm going to block them. Well, this is kind of ironic, chat. People think that if I bring up something controversial, I'm going to block them. Well, you did block me. No, you were just commenting on that thread and not casting aspirations my way. So no need for me to feel targeted. I just don't want people thinking that they can't comment on things I talk about. I want them to. They can even disagree with me. Well, apparently not, because apparently you're just blocking people vehemently. It's when it gets personal against me or others. I'd never said anything personal about Gary Nolan. Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah, Gary Nolan's a tool, guys. Gary Nolan's a major toolbox. Like, just listen to what he's saying here. Like, I'm just going to give you guys the unadulterated answer. Like, this guy's a tool. He's a tool. I knew nothing about Jules, but he's defending himself, and it's not my place to be judge and jury. I have other goals and work to do. I do dislike when people are targeting and hurt for no apparent reason than bullying. Thanks. I don't feel targeted. Mostly just joking in my comments about the blocking thing. Doesn't bug me either way. Half the UFO community has me blocked. I definitely won't attack you personally. I find that all to be a waste of time. But sadly, it makes it difficult for people like me to interact with anyone. I worry my half-joking asides will get screenshot and posted out of context, etc., etc. Anyway, ciao for now. I understand your position. You're a respected scientist in academia. Thank you for reaching out. If there's anything I can do to help you or disclosure, I'm available. I'm not disinformation or government controlled in any way. Thanks for hearing me out. That's exactly what a disinformation agent would say, which is kind of a funny comment. Fair. I do have security clearance. I see why people would think that. Oh, well, I just revealed some information. It's fine. Okay. So yeah, I'm not going to show that last paragraph or whatever. People are going to screenshot it, but it's no big deal. So the part though that I think is interesting is that a lot of these people, they say that their stuff gets posted. They're afraid of getting posted out of context. What I'll paraphrase the last paragraph here, which basically says that, like, I know somebody that knew Thomas Bearden, and then my only goal is to get the advanced technology the defense contractors are hiding. That's basically it. So what I was going to say there at the end, though, is that a lot of these guys don't understand social media at all. Like, these guys are walking on eggshells everywhere they go because they're afraid that, like, somebody's going to quote them out of context or whatever. Like, they think they're the most important people in the entire world. Like, who cares, man? The reason why I'm authentic is because I just say what it is. If someone's going to quote me out of context, so what? I'll be like, shut the fuck up. I don't care. Like, you can listen to what I say anytime you want. You don't have to take me out of context. Just, ask me a question if you want to ask me. I engage with all kinds of people on the internet. So, like, when I look at these people, like, I'm just going to name them, like Gary Nolan, Lou Elizondo, Jeremy Corbell, George Knapp. These guys are all buddies with one another. And they're afraid to post anything on social media because they're walking on eggshells everywhere they go, and they don't want to get caught in any lies or deception. And they're so concerned about what people think about them. I don't care what people think about me. People want to think I'm a crazy orb guy? Sure, whatever. It doesn't matter to me, right? I'm just trying to get the science out there to people. People want to listen. So there you go, chat. Okay. Yeah, I also don't have a paywall either. So I don't I'm the last person in the world you can say I'm a grifter or anything like that because I don't monetize anything. I make like no money off of this, and I reinvested all the money into a bunch of clips that I haven't even posted yet on the internet. So whatever. I probably could be making more money if I cared. I just don't care. I don't care, chat. At least not until I lose my job. Now let's go look at this paper, guys. So there you go. Apparently I'm blocked by Gary Nolan. This is how we learned. Is this it? I think this is, wait. Oh, PowerPoint? Oh, we're in PowerPoint, chat. Oh boy. Oh boy. We might have to review this. I don't have PowerPoint on my computer, so we are going to have to actually review this from the how do I do this? Probably from the direct link. One sec. Okay, while I'm pulling this up, any questions? Oh God, I've got to go look it up. I don't have a direct link to it either. Hold on a sec. Gary Nolan, he's a professor at Stanford. He's been looking into like the mental aspect of the phenomenon and some of the Havana syndrome stuff, which I looked at his work. I think it's legit, but he's definitely not either he's a little bit brainwashed or he's just not saying everything he knows. Like, how can you be like, oh yeah, I'm researching this Havana syndrome. It's related to UFOs, but the science is just completely unknowable. No, there's like something going on there. God, do I really not have it? Yeah, okay, I found it. Here we go. We're going to have to read this through this janky web link. Maybe I'll find a way to make it like bigger for us or something. Okay, here we go. Yeah, Havana syndrome, if you can manipulate gravity, you could see that like a gravitational potential somewhere in your body could throw you out of this equilibrium that we're in all the time. Like, what if you make your head age faster than your body? There could also be like radiation effects related to very powerful electromagnetic fields as well. So there's several different ways where like this, you can see how it could be very dangerous. I would not want to be standing next to a UFO. If there was a UFO in my vicinity, I would want to be pretty far away from it. I would be treating it like it's radioactive. I just think Gary's a tool for blocking me. I mean, what did I do to get blocked? Come on, what are you talking about, dude? I also think it's super weird how all these guys are connected to these major podcasters and they're just feeding them disinfo. They're basically controlling their perception through controlled disclosure of information. And this explains why some of these guys like Tucker Carlson are kind of confused about the topic. They're confused about the topic because they got people like Gary Nolan going, we can't understand this. We have no idea what this is all about. Or Jeremy Corbell being like, oh, it's all about the aliens visiting us, man. Here's a jellyfish UFO that's floating around in the sky. Come on, man. Kidding me? Let's talk about gravity. Okay, sorry. So I think we're gonna get going here on this. Eric Hecker. No, Eric Hecker, I don't think mentioned Havana's. Oh, wait. No, he did mention Havana Syndrome. You're right. Eric Hecker did mention it. He said somebody got really sick as well. What if they got too close to one of the radar dishes that was producing gravitational waves and it messed them up? I could see that. Who knows? Okay. Okay. I probably won't call out Gary Nolan on Twitter just because I don't care. It was like half of UFO Twitter has me blocked. Don't worry. All the people that have me blocked or whatever, like karma's coming for those people. The people that are lying and have been lying about the videos, that have been pushing disinformation with all their little trolls online, and Lou Elizondo and these guys are related to this troll army online, and these losers like this Nicholas guy, whatever. I won't say his last name, but he goes by Klaus on Twitter. Like, karma's coming for these people. They got usurped by me on the disclosure stuff. They got the topics basically ripped out of their hands. And end of the day, when the stuff gets proven to be true, like, I'm going to run roughshod over these people. I'm not going to take any prisoners on this. If you think you're going to treat me like crap, and then when it turns out that I'm right, I'm going to just like turn the other cheek. You got the wrong guy. You got the wrong guy. You guys had your chances. So if any of the trolls are watching, or Gary Nolan or Lou Elizondo or any of the people that communicate them, just let them know 100%. Like, I'm going to destroy your credibility when it turns out that I'm right about all this. So you better either push that disclosure forward or get the fuck out of my way. Yeah, well, that's exactly it. So DJ Jazzy Jazz, right? Why not join forces with you? That's a great question, right, DJ Jazzy Jazz? The answer is pretty clear, because they have an agenda. They have a plan, right? They have a plan for what they're trying to do with disclosure. And what I'm doing is not in that plan. That's the only reason why you wouldn't join forces with somebody. And this is a question I've asked myself ever since Jeremy Corbell followed me last year in September. He was the first person to follow me, never reached out. George Knapp is a journalist that talks about UFO stuff and never reached out to me. Even though I did more journalism in a year than George Knapp's done his entire life related to any topic that's out there. Never reached out. This is how you know these people are controlled. Because any normal person would reach out to you, right? And you're talking about the exact same stuff they're talking about. Why not join forces? They had their chance to join forces, man. They chose not to. Sorry to say it. I'm going to destroy their credibility, like, permanently forever. So it's going to come out one way or another. And I've set myself up now where there's no possible way anyone can take it from me, right? Like, I've been saying it for a year. It's all been recorded. So the moment people come out, they're like, oh, yeah, so 0 point energy explains gravity. Everyone's going to go, You just fucking stole this from Ashton because he's been telling you this for a year and you never reached out to him. That's what happened. Okay, let's do it. Okay, so laboratory demonstration of gravity modification by EM fields through gravity electromagnetic unification theory. John Brandenburg, very interesting here. Mostly taken from a DARPA final project presentation. Can I make this bigger? 2022. Does that make it easier to read? Yeah, 2022. I'll answer more questions later. I want to get through this, guys. So if you have questions, you can save them for the end, guys. But yes, there are medical aspects to this. Okay, so let's just get down to this. So fusion energy, space propulsion, unified field theory. So already right away, we are connecting a lot of John Brandenburg's been in all the right things, right? Fusion is cold fusion, which is low energy nuclear reactions. That's directly connected to free energy. You can see a toroidal thing right here as well. Toroids, we're seeing gravity. I'm going to skip through his introduction, but I will say that 9.5 years at nuclear weapons labs. I forget what LLNL stands for, but Sandia Labs as well. These are major labs with Q level clearance, guys. Brandenburg had Q level clearance. I didn't even know that was a real thing. Presumably, that's just another term for like a very highly compartmentalized access that you have access to, like, you know, the nuclear stuff. Okay. So this is the post that I think, let me make this a little bit bigger. Oh, shit. Okay, there we go. Mario posted this post here, which is the 4 forces of nature. Now, right up here at the top, it says Einstein believed a theory unifying the long-range force of electromagnetism and gravity was possible. Why? The inverse square law, right here. Oh, that's Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory. Yeah, Sandia Labs, Lawrence Livermore. These are all very highly, like, government labs that have private contractors that work at them. Very highly stuff. So this is the reason, like, the equations are basically the same. That's what he's saying right here. Most of the universe is hydrogen. The rest is the details. Einstein concentrated on charges, plus and minus electrons, and masses of the proton and electron. Was Einstein right in his basic approach? Gravitational constant. Here's the equation for gravity. If you look at the equation of force for electric charges, it's basically the same as this. This is how you can realize right away that there's a connection. The universe is electric. Gravity is explained by a polarization of charges, the same way that same way that charge forces are. It's just at large scales. Previous reports of laboratory generated gravity modification. So this is 1989. Hayasaka, Hideo, and Takaguchi and Sakae. Yeah. So these guys, I haven't read this paper yet, although it does look really familiar. So maybe I have seen it. Here's Koizarev. So Koizarev, he was the one that came up with the mirror thing, right? Where he thought he could go back in time. And then Brandenburg and Klein in 1998. So here's their data. You guys can check out those papers if you want. So the GEM unification theory basically says Einstein was right, mostly. GEM theory unifies electromagnetism and gravity using a combination of Sakharov, 0-point fluctuation, and Kaluza-Klein hidden dimension theories. What? Right, chat. What? I mean, this is a needle in a haystack. How can he be saying the exact same thing here? The exact same thing. He's Sakharov. The only thing he's missing here is Hal Puthoff, right? But maybe he's going to get to it because he's saying Sakharov. And what? Let me look at, like, this is literally on my list from Candace Owens, or for the interview. Where is it? Sakharov in 1967. 0-point fluctuations explains gravity. Kaluza-Klein, 1926. You basically added an extra dimension. And where did this come from? This came from the DIRDs, guys. The DIRDs, the Defense Intelligence Research Documents. This is how I found out about all this, because I was reading Hal Puthoff and Eric Davis's papers, and I found this and was like, this is it. And Tom Bearden also talked about the Kaluza-Klein having already unified it. Tom Bearden was talking about this in the 80s. So the exact same science that I independently researched and found out this is the science that checks out is exactly what Brandenburg's saying in this paper. Both concepts were pioneered by Einstein, but he did not believe in quantum mechanics, key to Planck scale concept. He ended up coming around on quantum mechanics, is what I've heard, but he just, he died before he got to really, get it down in his later years. Hey, Marius, or wait, where's Marius? Man, you guys chat's moving fast now. If ZPF creates vacuums that suck and propel ships forward, how is this vacuum powerful enough to pull a craft before all the wind enters the vacuum? Because it's a complete distortion of the gravity itself. So the same answer here is, why are the clouds not getting blown away or sucked away in the MH370 video? Because you're dealing with something that is like, it's an extra dimension that you can't really see it from the same perspective that you would imagine. It's a phase change where all of a sudden it's just gone and somewhere else. When you displace something from space-time entirely, you can see that the light is bending around it. So you see, it's like a black hole. You see there's a black hole there, but you can't see anything inside of it. So things are not actually getting sucked into it from this perspective. You're creating a field, like you're cutting out an area around it. So that's basically the answer there, is that when you create your Casimir shell or what have you, everything inside there is completely displaced from space-time entirely, which is why it looks like it vanishes in an instant. And then time becomes very relative as well. So the last thing I'll say on this is that for the person who's going through this hole, it's instantaneous. But there could be a time dilation effect where when they show up on the other side, more time has passed. To them, it was instantaneous. But what if like an hour passed or like a year? So this is where the time aspect gets really weird. What percentage is the chance Brandenburg stuff is real? I don't know about his other theories, but this is basically almost exactly what I independently figured out. So I would say with respect to this theory, and he's just combining, like you said, he found Sakharov and Kaluza-Klein. I think he's probably seen some stuff as well. I'm sure he's talked to Hal Puthoff and these other guys as well. So yeah. Yeah, I mean, Tom Bearden was a legend, guys. Tom Bearden was a legend, chat. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Guys, I'm still a rookie when it comes to this stuff. Like, I'm basically fresh compared to Brandenburg with like a, whole lifetime of experience. I'm trying. So give me a little bit of leeway there. Now, Gem Theory says gravity and inertia modification technology is possible through the vacuum Bernoulli equation. I haven't looked at this equation here, but what he's saying here is that the 0-point fluctuations explain inertia. So when I walk, the resistance that I feel when I'm walking is inertia. That's me moving through the 0-point fluctuations. Think of the 0-point fluctuations as little bubbles. If I just push those bubbles aside, then I can have no inertia. It means my hands will just go flying because there's no resistance whatsoever. This is why inertial modification is possible, because the same effect of adding or removing the 0-point fluctuations that manipulates gravity, this is the same concept that is causing inertia to exist. Oh, to answer your question, going back on the question about why is stuff not getting sucked in, with the orbs, it is getting sucked in. You can create a miniature black hole, I think, with this technology. And if you create a miniature black hole, then you are going to suck stuff in, but it's going to potentially be limited by the magnetic field or the electromagnetic field around your object. So that's probably a better answer to your question. Byfield-Brown effect, yeah, that could be another effect that's going on here. It's connected to this, absolutely. Because what's happened in the Byfield-Brown effect? You're creating an asymmetry. You create an asymmetry, and now your thing floats away, right? Okay, and now here's where you're talking about the hierarchy. So the Planck scale is the smallest possible scale. An electron, I think, is 10 to the minus 15. So 10 to the minus 35 is 20 orders of magnitude smaller than an electron. The Planck scale is the tiniest perceivable scale, which really it's hard for us to even perceive it. The other thing, too, is that we evolved in a way where we don't perceive the quantum at all. We only see macro sized things, but the rest is there. And so then you can see life is 10 to the minus 5. This is like a bacteria, right? Or a virus, something very, very tiny. And then the Hubble scale, which is the largest possible, so 10 to the 25, massive, massive objects. So GEM theory is based on two postulates. Gravity fields are equivalent to arrays of electromagnetic drifts, or the Poynting vector, right-hand rule, guys, Poynting vector, of quantum zero-point fluctuations of the Planck scale. So he's saying here, this is how we connect the charges on the Planck scale, electromagnetic fields, directly to gravitational fields that we see on the macro scale. Hey, Arwen, welcome. Welcome to the chat. Yeah, I agree with Michael here. I don't think Einstein opposed quantum because he did help birth it. I mean, Einstein, Podolsky, Rosen, quantum entanglement has got Einstein's name in it. EPR, guys. So, yeah. Yeah, tiniest so far. Tiniest so far as well. Gravity and electromagnetism exist as separate fields along with protons and electrons due to the existence and the deployment of a hidden fifth dimension, the Kaluza-Klein dimension. Okay, guys, I don't know how many times I'm going to say it, but read Hal Puthoff's Gravity as a Zero-Point Fluctuation Force. Why? Because what does Hal Puthoff say? Hal Puthoff says that you can shield electromagnetic effects, the wavelengths of electromagnetism, but you can't shield gravity because gravity is happening at the Planck scale. And gravity is happening at the smallest scales. That's why you can't shield it. So gravity exists as separate field to EM, but they do have a relationship. They are connected, right? So that's really interesting. And then it's the reason why we don't perceive the gravitational field is because it's on this Planck scale dimension that's too small. This is why I say think of it as let me make this bigger. Think of it as an infolded dimension or outfolded dimension from our dimension. There's this one little kid, he's now an adult, but he was a kid, where he's talking about dimensions and like what it would look like to see the extra dimension. And while that's not 100% accurate related to this theory, that's where dimensional perception becomes super weird. It's very hard to wrap your brain around in general. Okay. Oh, yeah. Reducing the permittivity of the vacuum. So if you reduce the permittivity of the vacuum, you change the refractive index. And if you change the refractive index, what happens? You change the speed of light because now your medium has been changed. I don't know if he mentions this, but the reason why we need this quantum foam is because we need a medium for our electromagnetic waves to propagate. A wave can only propagate through a medium. Terrence Howard was absolutely right on that front. The answer is the ether. The extra dimension that Brandenburg's talking about here is the ether, the Kaluza-Klein extra dimension. I call it the ether. You guys can call it whatever you want. You want to call it quantum foam, virtual particles, whatever other nonsense. I don't care. It's just semantics. Doesn't matter. Okay. GEM theory leads to a mechanism for vanishing of zero-point fluctuations, accurate representation for G field for G, and the vacuum Bernoulli equation for lift in gravitational fields. So here's the Poynting vector drift model of gravity. I don't fully quite understand this, but this is where if you want to check out the math, check it out. I haven't reached the point in my knowledge is mostly conceptual. At this point, I would say I'm more on the theoretical physics side as opposed to the hard math. But I do have a plan to learn all the hard math, which I'm getting slowly better at, but it's going to take me like at least another year to become a major expert at any of this stuff. I even hate the word expert. Anyway, and E and B, so E stands for electric field and B stands for magnetic. E and B drift gravity field model works well for isolated charged particles in free fall. So basically, he's saying that if you look at these models here, you realize that the gravity and electromagnetism have this relationship to them. And then also with respect to time variation of the electric field strength, I don't really know. I mean, I can tell the pluses and minuses here. What am I looking at here? I think he's saying that as the electric field strength changes, you're going to see a change in the gravitational. So you're going to see an accelerated motion as the electric field increases with time. That's what it seems like he's saying there. This is the one I like the most. Radiation pressure model of gravity. I love his analogy here as well. Bright objects in a dark box have a minus 1 over r squared, and then repulsion. And then dark objects in a bright box have an attraction. Because really all this boils down to then is photon is just an electromagnetic wave, right? A point of light is an electromagnetic wave moving through the ether. So if that's true, then darkness is the absence of those things. So then you can actually boil it down to just dark and light. So you can basically say if you have a bright object in a very dark box, you're going to have a repulsive effect, which is what you see in this first image. And then if you have a dark object in a light box, you're going to have an attractive effect. So gravity can actually work both ways. We only perceive it in one direction because we don't really see the negative energy aspect of it. But we can through the Casimir effect. We put those plates together, we can see the negative pressure differential. Remember, Hal Puthoff says in one of the videos that we watched, the Casimir effect could be thought of as a negative energy pressure differential. And the moment you realize that gravity is radiation pressure, then you realize, oh, well, that is negative energy causing a negative gravity, the opposite of gravity as we experience it. Oh, did Bob Greenyer say that? That's cool. I haven't talked to him in a little while, actually. Yeah, there's no actual, negative energy is a bit of a misnomer. When we talk about negative energy, we're talking about this is the equilibrium state and we're going below the equilibrium. Think of it as we're in a field all the time. We're on top of the ocean, rocking back and forth. And if I sink underneath or go above, that's our negative energy, positive energy. At the end of the day, it's all just energy. It's just a matter of how we look at it mathematically. That's what's changing. Okay. The Poynting vector radiation pressure concept of gravity due to 0-point fluctuations requires particle masses to also be due to 0-point fluctuation and works for masses of particles. So he's saying this explains why particles have mass at all. Why does a particle even have mass? There you go. I don't remember if he talks about it here as well, but the other thing I'll talk about is the other Hal Puthoff paper that I showed that explains why when a particle is at rest, why does it not radiate energy? Because we know from quantum mechanics, even a particle that's at rest, it's still moving around. It still has a Zitterbuergang motion. It's still spinning. So why is it not radiating energy? We know it's moving. The answer is because it's in equilibrium. When it's not radiating energy, it's at perfect equilibrium with the background. If you pull it out of equilibrium, then it radiates energy. This is how you unify quantum field theory to general relativity, what we see from the macroscopic scale. So that's the reason why I think that paper was, let's say, sent to me for me to show, because that just unified, basically proves the concept must be real. It answers one of the toughest questions in physics. Why does a particle at rest not radiate? Because it's in the 0-point energy field in an equilibrium state. That when I read that paper and I understood it, I was like, whoa, I'm understanding this. Okay, let's keep going. Let's see. ZPF contribution to cosmological constant vanishes under GEM. I think he's trying to explain why there is the vacuum catastrophe here, though I could be wrong. Although right here is EM fields can also generate anti-gravity, right? Because gravity can go both ways under this. Again, I don't understand all the equations, but maybe like Alien Scientist or Bernie or some of those guys will review this, and they can explain the equations to me. I'm pretty sure the equations are going to check out, but I'm happy for people to review them and peer review them. Deployment of the new hidden dimension to the Planck scale also separates protons from electrons. Charge is the distance. So he's just doing some math here. Charges are electron. Okay. Minkowski spacetime is basically like the same as Einstein spacetime. I think it came before Einstein actually came up with special relativity, or somewhere around the same time. The charges he's also saying that I think conservation of energy is still maintained here as well. So I'm kind of speculating here because I don't really understand the math, but I think what he's saying here is that if I were to pull electrons out of the extra dimension, the ether, we're maintaining energy because we're borrowing it. So I think that's what he's saying in this part too, which is important because we have to make sure we don't violate the first law of thermodynamics. Okay. It also conserves space-time, apparently. So conserving space-time, the way I think about that is like this. Remember, we squeeze on one side, the other side expands. Okay, Kaluza-Klein theory requires field quantities to be independent of a hidden dimension and for its size R to be very small. Okay. Yeah, the math goes right over my head on this one as well. Let me see what we got here. Oh, okay. So then he's trying to go and show a proof where he does the math here. And from the model that they've got here, they come up with this number 1.6665 to the 10 to the minus 24. And then this is extremely close to the measured value as well that we see. So basically he's saying here, based on this model, we can explain gravity almost perfectly to the to per thousandth of a fraction here. Okay. And then one thing I liked here as well, this part was interesting because when he does the math, it looks like there's an additional term where you have to double it. And what he says down here is starlight deflected by the sun at twice the angle expected from Newtonian gravity. So what I think he's saying here is that Newtonian gravity, the theory for it doesn't account for the amount of bending of light that we're seeing from our own sun. If this is true, I need a fact check on this, guys. If this is true, this is huge. Why is this true? If this is huge, because I'm going to mention flat earthers for a second. Flat earthers a lot of the time will say when you try to measure the curvature, the laser goes much further than what the math says. Well, here's the answer. If it turns out that it's because we don't understand gravity and that electromagnetism is bending gravity, bending light at twice the rate that we think that the math says it should under classical physics, that's your answer. What this literally means right down here, I think, on the bottom right, yeah, the lens, exactly, thank you, the lensing effect. The lensing effect that we observe is twice as powerful as what the math shows. What does this mean from a practical standpoint? This means that we can see much further than what the math says. Now, why is this big from the MH370 standpoint? Because all of these original investigators said that Mike McKay could not see the plane because he was 300 nautical miles away. Well, the answer is the math is wrong. I'm not going to say he can see twice as far, but he can see further than what the math claims. And the reason why we know this is true is because people have literally taken pictures from like across Lake Michigan and they can see Chicago when it's like 60 or some miles away. Based on the math, they shouldn't be able to see it. The reason why they can see it is because the curvature of light, the lensing effect that's happening, is more powerful than what can be explained by Newtonian gravity. That's what he's saying right down here. So I need somebody to check that out. We need a fact check on that. Lensing Newtonian gravity. If anyone in the Discord can find anything about the lensing of Newtonian gravity, I have a feeling that we're going to find out that there's an incompatibility between what we measure from the lensing effect and what Newtonian gravity can explain. If that's true, that would be wild, because that means that this is like absolute proof, right? That if all of a sudden that's corrected by looking at gravity as a electric force. Yeah, it's very interesting, right? This is why this slide was really interested in me. Because if an electric force can explain the lensing effect as being twice as powerful, then to me, that's absolute proof the universe is electric. Because this is, yeah, we can see too far, right? So I definitely want to look into that. That seems like a good way to prove this theory is 100% correct. And side note, it would prove that the flat earthers are wrong. All the flat earthers, most of them say like, oh, you do this laser thing and you can see it goes much further than we expect. It doesn't go for infinite distance though, which is the problem with their argument. But if it turns out it's because our approach to Newtonian gravity is wrong and 0 point energy explains the correct approach, that proves 0 point energy is right. And it also proves that, flat earthers are wrong. No offense. I truly have nothing against the flat earthers, guys. Nothing against them. One more quick question, and then we'll keep going on this. I don't think there's a lot more slides. If the crafts use 0 point fluctuations for travel, how can this work in space that is already a vacuum? Space isn't empty. That's your answer. So for Truth Seeker, here's your answer, bro. Conventional physics looks at the space-time, the vacuum of space-time, as nothing like this. The reality is it's an equilibrium up here. We can actually remove the 0 point energy from it. That's what 0 point energy is. Literally, the reason why it's called 0 point energy is because at absolute zero, where we would think everything's at rest, there's still energy there. There's still energy. So this is the rub. This is what people have to realize, is that two things. Space-time is not empty. There is something in there to give. And the amount of energy that's there is like 100 orders of magnitude higher than what we think from general relativity. So there you go. Hopefully that answers your question. Yeah, think of it as little bubbles everywhere, right? Electromagnetic waves do traverse through space. It can't be empty. It can't be a vacuum. It's not an empty vacuum. That's the answer. Space isn't an empty vacuum. It's a substance. It's a medium. Now, there may be very little in there, but there's still stuff in there. Okay. Yeah, it's not even so much, the ether is transparent, but it's an extra dimension that's folded in. It's a dimension that is always there around us, but I wouldn't say it's transparent. I would say it's at scales that are so small that we can't perceive it. We can't perceive it. Yeah, it literally holds the universe together. Literally. In fact, it explains dark energy too. So if you believe in the Big Bang, I'm actually moving away from the Big Bang. But if you believe in it, then the ether explains how it's possible. That's how the universe expanded faster than the speed of light, because the massive amount of energy caused it to. That's how we can travel faster than the speed of light, using the same energy. Yeah, you can power your whole house with something the size of a shoebox. Like, this is our future, guys. This is our future. Okay, deviation from the VBE equation. Okay, so we'll work the Newtonian limit of gravity. I think this is where he says something about, let me see. Dynamic, yeah, this goes beyond my comprehension here. Oh. And now he's saying this can explain the weight loss by alternating current energized coils. So this is where you start to connect it to free energy. He's saying, hey, you can extract the energy. And when you do so, this is why you're seeing the weight loss or mass reduction effect as well, because these things are directly linked together. This is why when a lot of people oh wait, hold on, I'm not even showing you guys this. When I first started to jump onto the free energy train, everybody's like, why is Ashton talking about free energy? You're going to get discredited, blah, blah, blah. You can't get discredited because the science is irrefutably linked together. One comes with the other. Okay. That's pretty much it. But then the last part is he goes through this experiment. I haven't done this experiment. I don't have a plan to do this experiment. You guys can check it out yourself. But basically, he's taking a helium balloon, and I think they basically apply a current to the helium balloon. And this will basically prove it. Now, instead, I'm just going to scroll past this. Instead, I'm going to tell you guys the experiment that I saw, which you can do. You take a helium balloon, and you put it in your car, okay? And then you hit the gas on your car. You accelerate in your car. What do you think would happen? Well, my body, if I accelerate my car, I get pulled backwards, right? I get pulled backwards. If I brake, I get pulled forward. So what happens to the balloon, though? With the balloon, when you accelerate forward, I'm going to use this bottle. When you accelerate forward, does the balloon go backwards? No. The balloon goes forwards. It gets pulled forwards. When you brake with the balloon, it goes backwards. It does the exact opposite. That's pretty weird. And it's because there's a pressure differential. Well, gravity is also a pressure differential. And it's explained by electric forces. So what he says here, you can create an enclosure to shield out the air currents, PVC pipe. If anyone wants to, if anybody is a engineer, I would love for somebody to do this, make a video. I'll happily promote it if you can show me this. Take a helium balloon, toy motor, armature, 3 lob. This is already beyond me. We need a source 400 hertz or greater at 12 volts. So this is not massive effects. So a lot of people ask, like, how? Oh, sorry, I'm not showing it again. A lot of people ask me, like, how can you prove this type of stuff? Well, here's the answer to how you prove it, right? You have your experiment right here in front of you, and you do it at a small scale. And then we prove that the concept of zero-point energy can explain gravity through the math that was just shown there by Brandenburg. And what you're going to find is that nobody's going to review this math. That's just, nobody reads scientific papers. Nobody ever looks at the math. Like, this is the problem. When you wonder why have we not had this stuff, is because mainstream academia is a complete joke. It's a complete joke. It's like relying on actors and celebrities to tell you what to think. Nobody does that because these people aren't informed. Why is, no disrespect to Brian Keating, I really like him actually. Why is he not all over this? Why is Eric Weinstein not all over this? Why is he not posting about it? Why is he not going, hey, I'm reviewing Brandenburg's gem theory? Because he's a mathematician. He can look at the equations here and you can tell if they're legit or not. Why is Eric Weinstein not doing that? Because it's all a big joke. These people aren't out here like trying to solve things. They're just giving their opinions on things, right? Okay, so anyway, place the balloon coil assembly in the enclosure in equilibrium away from the walls. Let the air become still for 1 hour. Energize the coil. Frequency equal to or greater than 400 hertz with a voltage equal to or greater than 12 hertz. Coil will rise instantly as power is applied and sink instantly when the power is withdrawn. So this is basically showing you, oh, okay, so this is how it works. So the coil is strung on the balloon. And what you'll find when you apply the current, the coil is going to rise. The coil is going to fall. In fact, he has a YouTube video. Well, we're watching this. Oh, shit, no. Can you guys see this? Oh, you can see it.
Power.
I'm going to mute the sound because it's loud. Wait, is this? Well, this doesn't show me anything. Oh, okay. You can see it right there. I didn't even know what I was looking at. Okay, chat, here you go. The coil is right down here. Let me full screen this. Oh, you can't see my mouse. The coil is to the bottom left, right above this paper right here. And then the balloon, we don't see the balloon, but it's presumably tied to this thing right here. This is kind of a weird perception. So let's see. He's going to turn it on, and then presumably this coil lifts up a little bit. Oh, yeah, you can see it lifting. There you go. You can see it. Boom. Oh, we're posting this later. Look at the coil lifting up here, guys. There it is. Coil lifts up, turn it off, coil goes back down. So he's saying this proves there's a weight reduction, right? Proves there's a weight reduction. How are people not all over this? Isn't this just absolute proof that 0-point energy explains gravity right here? And whoever said T.T. Brown effect, there you go. Can we make a giant blimp? Hey, Ocean, how's it going? Nice to see you, girl. Yeah. Yeah, because kitten videos, right? Like, it's funny because if I post this, like, my guess is it'll get like 10,000 views. You post a picture of cats and you get like 1.5 million views, right? Like, we've just reached the point where like nobody knows or cares about science. Like, he just laid out exactly how this works. All he's doing is applying a current with a frequency through this little thing he made here and attach it to a balloon. And you can literally just see it rising right here with the current. That's all that's happening. This is actually great. I mean, wow, this is amazing. Yeah, I knew Nathan would like this. This is wild. I watched this the other night, and I didn't even know what I was looking at because I didn't see that the thing is actually tied here. He needs to like zoom out so we can like actually see what's going on. It's tied to the balloon right here. Oh, this is awesome. Oh, dude, where's Bernie? Where's the APEC guys, man? Where are my APEC guys? How are they not reproducing this? For the record, I've seen people do this type of thing, but not exactly this experiment. And when they do it, like, yeah, it lifts off. This is like the Byfield-Brown effect. Similar concept, right? But he's doing it in a way that proves what he's talking about. Now, gravity modification using 3-phase power. Now, this one's really interesting. Why? Because 3-phase power, our orbs are a 3-phase 0-point electrical system. Very interesting. Oh, there's a video here. Okay, I didn't realize you had all these videos. Let me see what else we got. So here's it looks like the apparatus. What does he say is going to happen? It's going to lift off, presumably. Oh, he's just showing what he's using here. Yeah, so he's seeing the weight loss effect. So basically, they're using this very advanced equipment to see the weight loss effect. And then they show you a null data to show you there's definitely a weight loss effect happening. Let me just see what else we got down here. Oh, this Sarfati theory here. He's like, yeah, it's not wrong. I don't like giving Sarfati too much credit because he didn't come up with any of this stuff. In fact, Sarfati was like poo-pooing on a lot of this stuff. But sure, a metamaterial definitely should be able to impact this effect, right? You can amplify or maybe like retard the effect. I just wanted to say that word. Using metamaterial. Manipulate the medium, right? Okay, so let's show the other video, and then let's do the summary, and then let's go on some other quantum mechanics. I don't know if maybe this does explain the 7 pounds we lose. I don't know. That's actually, damn, K-Ocean, that's a good question. I mean, if we are mostly charges, maybe we lose 7 pounds on effect over this. Interesting. Okay, let's see what he's got going on here. What's this? Oh, okay. So yeah, they're on a scale. So you can see the weight loss effect right there, right? So it starts at 0 or starts at 0.1, and then you can see it go to the negative right here, right? It goes to the negative. It's lifting off. Wow. I mean, these videos, like, come on, man. I mean, this is fine. Like, if somebody understands the science, this definitely proves it, but you're not going to convince people with a video like that. It's got to be flashy, you know? But that's legit, though. That's legit. Okay, so summary, guys. What's the summary of this? And notice, like, this is pretty simple. This doesn't require, like, sure, the math part is more difficult, but conceptually, I think anybody can understand this conceptually. Yeah, gravity, electricity and gravity is our universe's magic. Yeah, kind of. Yeah, Byfield-Brown effect finally coming back around because that's what we're seeing, right? We're seeing the Byfield-Brown effect. And what Brandenburg is basically saying is the Byfield-Brown effect, which is just charged plates, is, you know, he's just showing the math. And he's saying that this checks out. This shows that gravity, as we call it, is an induced effect from 0-point energy, from electric charges. Okay. So I'm really surprised that he's giving Sarfati so much credit in here. Hey, Ocean's Canadian. Ooh, guys. Ooh. That's okay. Dave Rossi's Canadian too. We'll give you guys a pass. Gravity modification directly by EM fields can be predicted from gem theory. 3 experiments can be performed to easily demonstrate small-scale gravity modification. We watched a couple of those. Gravity modification directly by EM fields is now demonstrated reality. Recent reports indicate Jack Sarfati's metamaterial theory can amplify gravity modification. I'm very disappointed that he doesn't mention Hal Puthoff. I mean, Hal Puthoff is all over this. And I don't think Hal Puthoff gives a crap about the credit. Really doesn't care at all. If Hal Puthoff cared about the credit, he could come out. I think he's just happy with millions of dollars, right? Hal Puthoff, I would guess that Hal Puthoff's patent has probably earned him tens of millions of dollars, if not more. So I think people like that, they just don't care. Like, I wouldn't care about the credit either. You want to give me millions of dollars? Like, fine, I don't care. Somebody else can claim they figured out the unification of gravity. I just want Star Trek, man. I just want Star Trek. I don't want to die on this planet living in the Stone Age with the cave people, man. When we could be interstellar species floating around on gravity manipulation with our free energy devices powering our homes. Okay, what do I have next for us, chat? I have 2 videos. Think we're going to start with a shorter one. We're going to learn more about quantum mechanics, and you are going to see how connected this stuff is. Guys, if you know the names of these people that we're going to show these videos, you can go ahead and put them in the chat. This guy is somebody that people apparently know, but I don't know all these people. We're going to watch this video called How Can 0-Point Energy Become an Energy Source? Oh, it's by Moray B. King. I think he wrote a book about this. Moray B. King, combining the theories of 0-point energy with the theories of system self-organization, offer opportunities to coherently harvest 0-point energy. Sounds like, I'm just going to keep reading. The energy typically couples into the matter 0-point energy or plasma 0-point energy conglomerates. Examples include plasmoids, shoulders electrum validium EV, or exotic vacuum objects, inert gas clusters of the PAP engine, and most recently, Leclerc's water crystal formation from re-entrant gents launched from collapsing. Torus-shaped cavitation bubbles. Here, the energy could be trapped in micron-sized rings of linear water to become the primary energy source for Brown's gas. Large-scale, force-free vortices of plasma might manifest macroscopic 0-point energy coherence. I mean, so, okay, guys, before we watch this, that was the intro to this, okay? So we've got a guy here who's saying we can harvest free energy, and it's directly connected to cold fusion and exotic vacuum objects and cavitation bubbles, sonoluminescence, all the things that we've been figuring out. I never knew who this guy was before like a few days ago. This video is about 30 minutes long. I will play it at a little bit higher speed, but here you go. Let's go. I'm going to skip. I don't need to hear all his intro. Oh, wait, I don't hear anything.
And systems engineer, and I'm jumping in to graduate physics and quantum mechanics and things like that. And people say, "You're really crazy. That's all complicated stuff. Why are you doing that?" I said, "Why?"
Oh, yeah, he's just giving his history here, so I'm going to go to where this thing starts. I think he said something interesting there, but it's fine. There's plenty of good stuff here. Okay. Pair production. I think he's talking about virtual particle pairs production right there. Conglomerates, charged clusters. So once again, if you look at what I just posted from Randall Carlson, you'll see that the charges in a plasma break free. Ken Shoulders figured this out, man. Ken Shoulders was also connected to Hal Puthoff. Oh, Nathaniel's seen this. Okay, awesome. Here we go. Yeah, and it shows transmutation of elements as well. Like there's a lot of crazy stuff that happens with this science. It's pretty awesome. Okay, here we go.
And so these conglomerates involve charged clusters, plasmoids, cavitation bubble, especially the reentrant jet being emitted from the cavitation bubble. And if this is really true, the implications are that large vortices of plasma likewise cause entrainment in the zero-point energy and creates a coherence in it, actually ends up grabbing a net energy gain out of it. And typically in plasmas, we don't see it because we're not looking for it. It's out of the paradigm. It's forbidden to be looked for in standard academia. But so the inventors typically stumble across it by doing the right stuff. Okay, could you pour me a glass of water? Absolutely, yes.
Bottom button.
Typically throughout the history of science, probably since Newton, there was a belief that in an ether. Maxwell's equations was an ether theory. It was typically hydrodynamic in nature. The vocabulary, thank you, of electrodynamics and vocabulary.
I mean, chat. Ether, Maxwell's the father of electrical engineering. I hate how he spelled ether, but everything else I love. Look at what we're looking at here on this graph, on this screen. It's showing the electrical charges and the movement of the electrical charges, positive charges, negative charges here. So he's already on this.
Maxwell's equations are basically fluid dynamics, fluxes, things like that. They have source sink models. Was very nice. So, but in 1905, the Michelson and Morley experiment comes along. Einstein's theory of relativity comes along, and it's very elegant as it unifies the electric field with the magnetic field. And everybody threw out the ether, but they only measured the wind of a static ether. But Dayton Miller furthered the work of Michelson Morley. He worked with Michelson on the interferometer experiment. He made an interferometer 10 times larger. It was 10 times more sensitive. He did experiments on Mount Wilson. At ground level, he got approximately the same result as Michelson and Morley did, but on Mount Wilson, he got evidence for ether drag theory. As James DeMeo wrote a wonderful paper. It's up on the way. By the way, you don't have to take notes because I'm going to tell you at the end how to get all these slides, and at the bottom of every slide is a reference, and you'll get this slideshow. And
I don't remember if he references it here, but I'm going to say is that this is the one thing where I'll say that we didn't advance it, but we found Martin Gruznik. So the thing about the ether that like nobody knows right now, except for very few people, is that it's a vertical ether because it's gravity, it's 0-point energy. That's what we miss. That's why when you do the Michelson-Morley experiment and do it horizontally, nothing happens. You need to flip it on its side. This also may explain why when somebody went on the mountain, right? They went on this mountain. Oh yeah, so this is what they're saying is that they get a different measurement when you're at sea level where you're above the mountain. Why? Because you need to flip your thing vertically. You need to realize that the ether is gravity, which we're feeling as the powerful force pulling down right now. And then Ishmael, I think it was in 2013, posted the paper that unifies gravity to the ether. So and to the blue shift that we see.
Yesterday's slideshow from one website. So along comes in 1930, quantum mechanics comes into play. The vacuum now is a surging sea of fluctuations, electromagnetic field fluctuations. It gives rise to the uncertainty principle, and it gives rise to pair production, a production of electron-positron pairs popping out of the turbulent vacuum. And so there's my first evidence of self-organization in the vacuum. So look what we have. We have a gap in science, 25-year gap from 1905 to 1930, where it is believed, because of the Michelson-Morley experiment, that empty space is empty. Prior to that, we believed in ether, and after that, we believed in the fluctuating vacuum, which, by the way, is a much better model for an energetic substrate, because it's modeled more like a turbulent plasma at the microscopic domain or at the Planck domain. Therefore, but this 25-year gap has dominated the belief of all of science. Everything you learn.
So what did he just say there? He just said that we screwed up when we got rid of the ether. And then when we got rid of the ether, we decided that space was empty. There's nothing out there. Well, we were wrong. We were really, really, really wrong. And it turns out all we had to do this whole time was just go back to the ether and go, maybe we misinterpreted an experiment from 1885 when people were still riding around on horses. Like, maybe we should go back to that experiment and just take another look at it. Turns out all we had to do the whole time was flip the experiment vertically, and we would have figured it all out. Crazy, right?
In school, the vacuum's empty, especially the engineers. And the engineers are the guys that do the stuff. They want to see real stuff. So when I was at last year's conference back in Washington with a lot of engineers from NASA, I still couldn't get any traction with it. Their beliefs just block them. They think the physicists that believe in this stuff, oh, they're just kooks too, with the Big Bang and all that stuff. They dismiss them. The engineers, truly in their beliefs, say the vacuum is effectively empty, and I will ignore all ideas associated with tapping it. If you go to the literature, it's well open question what can be done with the vacuum energy. In the beginning, Boyer was the leading proponent in the United States, and he wrote a series of papers that culminated in that all quantum effects can be described by matter's interaction with the vacuum energy. The hydrogen atom could be modeled in Platoff, team with Heish and others, to show how the hydrogen atom can be modeled from the vacuum energy. It can be an energy source without.
Hydrogen can be modeled from the vacuum energy. Whoa, how have I not read that? Hydrogen atom can be modeled from the vacuum energy. Okay, guys, Puthoff 1987. That's what I'm reading once we're done. Holy shit, chat. Holy shit. We can just manifest elements directly out of the vacuum. Holy shit. That's what he's saying. Yeah, transmutation going crazy. Not just transmutation, literally pulling elements straight out of the vacuum. Holy shit. That's what he just said. Look at how many Puthoff references this guy has right here. Look how many Puthoff references. Hydrogen atom. We can pull hydrogen. Because remember, what did Einstein say? Everything is just hydrogen, and then everything's just the details on that. So at the end of the day, all we need to do is figure out where the hydrogen is coming from. If we're just pulling it right out of the sea, of energy, and then the hydrogen just, add up, we can create water out of it, every other molecule we need from hydrogen. Through what? Transmutation. And the energy source. So I'm going to mention these other ones. So the energy source here, he's talking about 1993, Cole and Puthoff. This paper says it doesn't violate the laws of thermodynamics. Is that this does not violate the laws of thermodynamics. It's consistent with it. And then gravity. This is the paper I've been telling you guys about, 1989. Gravity as a 0-point fluctuation force, Hal Puthoff. And then inertia. Heish rolls in with Ruda here and Puthoff, and they come in 1994 and they say, this explains inertia. Remember, what's inertia? Just me moving. When I move this object, the resistance I feel when this object moves is not just from the air. It's that 0-point energy itself creates inertia and creates resistance. So not wind resistance, but inertia is 0-point fluctuation resistance. The same way where I take this microphone and my hand doesn't go through it. It hits the microphone. Same concept. Or maybe a slightly different concept. Okay, so there we go. Let's keep going.
Violating thermodynamics. Very important paper, because when people say it'll violate thermodynamics, the experts say no. It's an open question. You got to prove it.
So he just said right there, these people all say it violates the laws of thermodynamics. This is the brainwashing. The experts, the real experts are the people you're seeing with their papers listed right here. The Puthoff Cole paper says it does not violate the laws of thermodynamics. So when you get these brainwashed automaton robot NPCs that come and say, free energy violates the laws of thermodynamics, though. That's what I was taught in school. And then they don't even know what the laws of thermodynamics are. They just think that the laws of thermodynamics are like that free energy is not possible. You just literally tell them Cole and Puthoff in 1993 proved that it does not violate the laws of thermodynamics. Buzzing.
By an experiment. How gravity can rise from it as well. And probably the most exciting paper is how inertia is sourced in the vacuum fluctuations, meaning all the elementary particles are intertwined with it. And if you can start to create a technology that controls the vacuum, you can create propulsion of a sort that we can undergo abrupt accelerations without feeling inertial stress. The model and
the inertia one's also really interesting. Might have to check out that inertia paper, guys. What was that? 1990. Let me go back a few seconds, because he basically, that's explaining warp drive right here. This 1994 paper, man, that 1994 paper was the same year as the Alcubierre drive was published. That is weird, because he's saying that you can have these accelerations and feel no inertia at all. Because remember, you remove the 0-point fluctuations in front of you, right? Let's say I go south. I remove the 0-point fluctuation in front of me. I'm going to fall into it. But also, I'm going to feel no inertia. It's just going to feel like I'm just floating fully freely, no resistance. This is how you can accelerate something to the speed of light or beyond, because there's no inertia. There's no resistance anymore. The equations, we found the cheat code in the equations. Okay, got it. Oh boy, this is going to be spicy, chat. I mean, this presentation, finding this presentation is wild, because I didn't know who this guy was. And you realize there's other people who have figured this out. People have figured this out. The issue has never been like, we have to discover some new physics. Nope, it's all out there. It's all just out there. We just have to be like, hey guys, look at this. Here it is.
undergo abrupt accelerations without feeling inertial stress. The model in Willer's geomicrodynamics was essentially a turbulent plasma with electric flux entering and immediately leaving R3 space called quantum foam, is what he called it. The flux to any hole, a little mini white hole, was on the order of, they calculated from general relativity, about 10 to the 93rd grams per centimeter. It's more like, it's probably infinite. That was just a general relativity calculation based on squeezing it off like a black hole calculation. So what it is evidenced is an electric flux, a flux of energy from a higher dimensional space. So can self-organization occur? Everybody said no, it violates entropy.
So he's saying that there's basically infinite energy that's out there. And we have this electromagnetic flux. That's what energy is. This electromagnetic flux that is basically being pulled in from the extra dimension. Where do you think the lights, where do you think the power for this light is coming from? It's coming from the ether. It's coming from the energy. We're just creating this asymmetry that's allowing this electromagnetic flux to suck the 0-point energy out everywhere. All energy is coming from there. Doesn't this just make way more sense to people? And yeah, this is all old. This is old. So like when I showed the magnetic motor, and we're not going to get time to watch the video. There's another quantum mechanics video. Maybe I'll stream tomorrow night. Maybe. Where he says like there's another PhD physicist in quantum mechanics that talks about 0-point energy, much like this guy. And he goes, build a magnetic motor. It's possible. Because magnetism is interacting with the 0-point energy field. You can actually extract energy with a magnetic motor. So when I showed a magnetic motor that literally had meters with the numbers on it, everybody goes, that's fake. That's from 14 years ago. Therefore, it can't be real. Guys, this science, 1989, I was 7 years old in 1989 when Puthoff figured this out. I was 7 years old. This goes much further back than what people want to admit. And that's going to be a hard pill to swallow, is that we've had the answers for decades and we've just been ignoring them, just ignoring them. So how old something is does not impact its validity or merit.
Entropy, and then Prigogine wins the Nobel Prize for saying no, under certain circumstances it can self-organize, and those circumstances have to be nonlinear, far from equilibrium with the energy flux, and that was Wheeler's model. The energy flux is coming from a higher dimensional space. It enters and leaves. If there's vorticity in the flux on the right, it forms the elementary particles. It's like the particles are the whirlpool. They constantly need to be fed by the stream, and the whirlpool needs the flux to continue always. And the pace of time is associated with the flux. If there is slight tilt to it, we call it vacuum polarization.
I don't remember if he goes into non-equilibrium thermodynamics, but that's Elia Prigogine. Elia Prigogine. You realize Salvatore Pais mentioned all this stuff. Salvatore Pais probably went through a very similar awakening that I've gone through when he researched all this stuff. And that's how he found out it was legit, or he saw it and then he figured it out. What is really important about this is that the energy is constantly being refreshed. Remember when Tom Bearden said that? Because if you imagine this vortex that's connected to the quantum scale where the ether is pulling the energy out, it's constantly doing that. That's why you have to keep your dipole open. As long as your asymmetry exists, your dipole exists, your separation of charges, you've created a vortex that's sucking the energy out of the ether all the time. This is going to this explains everything in physics, man. This explains it. This is why I've got people who are scaring my friends, and why all these UFO people are ignoring me and blocking me, because I'm telling the truth that they don't want the world to know. Probably because they came to the same conclusion and somebody told them this is dangerous. Teaching people this information is literally dangerous because it's unlimited power, theoretically. Unlimited. And I mean power is in energy, but just literally power. Like you can become a god with this technology. So sure, I get why they're doing it, but it doesn't make them any less douchebags. Here we go.
And if the energy comes through incoherently, that's just background vacuum fluctuations. This is the orthogonal flux model of zero-point energy. It's basically John Wheeler's model. Robert Laughlin sees the same thing. He won the Nobel Prize. He wrote this book, Inventing Physics from the Bottom Down, a Different Universe. His point of view is everything arises from collectives, including the laws of physics themselves. The principles for coherent zero-point energy just do what Prigogine said to do, work with a highly nonlinear system like plasma.
He says, do what Prigogine says to do, a highly nonlinear system. Work with something like plasma. Because the charges start to float freely. They break away from their bonds. So you want to use plasma. Who else talked about nonlinear system? Salvatore Pais mentioned several times the Schwinger effect, the Schwinger limit. If you Google the Schwinger limit, what do you see? It's the threshold in which space-time becomes nonlinear. I don't think it's a coincidence this stuff keeps getting mentioned. People ask, who's scaring your friends? Well, I've been told several times to say I would not suicide myself, and that Salvatore Pais would not suicide himself, and that Dave Rossi would not suicide himself. Now, are they being overly dramatic? I don't know, but I'm not taking any chances whatsoever. Okay? Like I said, there's people out there, especially in the UFO disclosure movement, that do not want this information out there. What I will say, this is as far as I'll go, is there are people out there that think that I'm being fed information to push out there. Now, if you think that I'm being fed information, I could see how you would look at certain people that I've talked to and be like, those people are feeding Ashton Forbes information. The truth is that I did an interview with Salvatore Pais, and he name dropped a lot of physicists. And for the last 9 months, all I've done every single day after work is look up those physicists and research their scientific papers and follow the clues. I'm an investigator. And when I realized that Salvatore Pais is not lying to me, I said, I'm going to learn electrical engineering. And where has that led? To me learning quantum mechanics and zero-point energy. So is anybody feeding me this stuff? No. I'm just following the breadcrumbs. So if you don't believe that, I don't really care. That's the truth. And if you don't think I have that capability, you should stop underestimating me. So let's keep going. That was just a message for, people that are out there theoretically.
Abruptly drive it far from equilibrium, abrupt pulsing, maximize the interaction with the zero-point energy, typically using the ions and creating vortex forms. Electron clouds make electrons make a poor transducer to affect the vacuum energy. The electron cloud in a conductor is essentially in thermodynamic equilibrium with it. You don't really get much in the way of vacuum activity with normal electrical circuits. However, the ions, the nuclei, have steep lines of converging vacuum polarization, and so any abrupt movement of the ions then starts to kick up the zero-point energy.
Whoa, that was interesting. So he's saying that a conventional circuit doesn't really kick up the 0-point energy. This is why the Electro Boom guy or whatever his name is, and all those other engineers, they have no fucking idea how energy works, right? These guys have no clue how energy works because they were just taught conventional circuitry. Like these guys have never worked with plasma before. They've never considered an asymmetrical system. And if you never consider an asymmetrical system, you live inside a box. If you live inside a fishbowl, your whole world is the fishbowl. But there's a bigger world out there. This is basically what he's saying. I need to listen to that part one more time because I need to digest this here. Hold on.
However, the ions, the nuclei, have steep lines of converging vacuum polarization, and so any abrupt movement of the ions then starts to kick up the zero-point energy. They see it in the accelerator experiments. They call it exotic coherent vacuum states. They see it in the plasma ion acoustic mode where the ions are moving synchronously together. The plasma ion acoustic mode is famous for manifesting energetic anomalies.
This is how you get infinite energy, chat. This is how you can do it, right? These ion acoustic oscillations. So can you amplify the oscillations? Probably. I'm guessing specific resonance, right? Just like if you're in the bathtub, right? You're in the bathtub and you rock back and forth. You can see the waves begin to form. If you keep rocking back and forth, what happens? The water begins to shoot over the top of the bathtub because you're amplifying the amplitude of your waves. How much you want to bet this is exactly what you need to do in order to amplify the energy extraction from the vacuum? You use a plasma, you get the ion acoustic oscillations, and then you amplify it. And what's going to happen? You're going to extract energy, and then you're going to extract energy amplified. This is probably the shit that like I could get thrown in prison if I actually like literally was not just discovering this from open source information. This literally feels a little bit dangerous, but whatever. Here we go. Now you guys all know as well.
You not only simple, it's often centered around a self-organizational event like a toroid, and they see large radiant energy absorption, high frequency spikes, runaway electrons, anomalous plasma heating, and you're seeing it in the plasma experiment. A type of cluster that's unusual is the inert gas clusters, and in them they can do laser excitation of a mixture of inert gases. When they make the cluster, they get anomalous release of energy. So this inert gas cluster is
yeah, there you go. Was that Nathaniel Hicks just said that, right? Look at that. Laser excitation causes clusters to explode. Enhanced explosions and disassociations. Abrupt release of kinetic energy. Yeah, so we were on point with the laser stuff. Maybe you don't even need lasers to pull it off. But yeah, you use a laser and a noble gas, and maybe you can pull this off as well. Hutchinson? That's not John Hutchinson, is it? Very interesting. This video is really good, chat.
Like an excimer. It's in a kind of a cold plasma state and can be re-excited to release the energy. They see your structure to it. So these are in the standard journals where they're making this observation, typically with laser excitation. And that can be used to help explain the PAC engine, which was running on a mixture of inertial gases that had to be conditioned by exciting it with lots and lots of spark before they fed it into the engine. The typical form.
Guys, the MH370 videos are real. They're obviously real. Look at how detailed this quantum mechanics science is. Ball lightning plasmoid just happens to be the exact way where you can essentially extract unlimited energy, and then we're looking at balls of energy literally warp driving and teleporting a plane through a wormhole. Like, this is what we figured out. The science goes back far enough too. Like, you look at the references on the bottom of this video that we're watching. A lot of them are like the late 80s, early 90s. This was 30 years ago, 30, 40 years ago. Of course we figured it out and have engineered it at this point. This is why I can't stand, this is why Lou Elizondo's being so coy when he says, well, people ask him, like, because they'll say, like, could it be us? And he's like, well, no, because it goes back so far. Well, when he's saying that, it's basically admitting that, yes, we have figured it out now, but we can't explain how we were seeing it in the 50s and the 60s, which I don't really give a shit, man. Just tell us about the free energy technology, right? Tell us about the free energy technology. Just tell us, man. I'm so tired of this bullshit about, well, aliens are here and they came here in the 40s or whatever, then we've been seeing their crafts. Cool, I don't care. Tell me about the physics, man. Tell me about how we're going to revolutionize our planet because we can just literally extract free energy with plasma whenever we want and amplify it up. This is like decades beyond these stupid tokamak reactors. We don't need a tokamak reactor with a donut spinning plasma around. We can just literally confine plasma in magnetic fields and extract as much energy as we want. We can make a coherent ball of plasma that just sits there, just sits here and just sucks energy right out of the ether. And the best part is it might be extracting it as electrical energy, so we don't even have to transduce it into another form. We can just use it just as it is. It's crazy. What's wrong with the world, man? For the record, I can't wait to go on Candace Owens because I am going to expose all this shit and I'm going to expose these people that are just covering it up and lying about it or whatever. And I'm just going to lay it bare. I'm going to basically do what this guy's doing and be like, here's the Hal Puthoff paper from 1989. Here's the one that shows that doesn't violate thermodynamics, all this stuff. And it's just going to be unimpeachable. No one's going to be able to debunk it, because it's all real science. It's all published and peer-reviewed and everything that all these NPCs ask for. And then they're probably going to be like, well, why don't you like prove it and make a floaty orb or whatever? I'm going to say, I don't need to. I've got 2 videos literally proving it. I just show them the videos. I can only figure this out because I'm looking at videos of freaking orbs with a heat signature in them that shows the vortex motion that's happening where they're just cohering energy straight out of the ether.
Formation of self-organization that you see in the plasma is called the plasmoid. It's essentially a vortex ring. Around the ring is a self.
Beetlejuice, thank you, brother. Thank you for Glenn Beck apparently replayed. Glenn Beck and Alex Jones both replayed my interviews on Labor Day, on Monday, actually. And I all of a sudden was getting like thousands of followers. And yes, if you're new here, like since that interview with Glenn Beck, I have learned so much quantum mechanics. And it turns out it is 100% real. These videos, I'm going to show real quick the drone video, okay? These videos are 100% real. This is U.S. government technology that we have, that our engineers have been working on for decades, that we have scientific papers that prove all this stuff is real going back to the 80s. So when people are talking about, you know, UFOs or whatever, like majority of it's probably just us at this point. Whether or not aliens exist, I don't know. I don't really care. Maybe they do. Maybe they don't. What really matters is we have unlimited energy and we have floaty orbs that can defy gravity. We have real working warp drive and we have real working wormhole technology that it doesn't just require a craft. We can literally teleport an aircraft, a random craft. We can have our orbs teleported from one location to the other through a wormhole. Look at this. Look at this video. That's Malaysian Airlines Flight 370 being teleported through space-time. Crazy, chat. I'll post the Discord invite as well. Welcome all the newcomers. Let me post the Discord invite. I'm going to let that play while I post it. Crazy, man. And like the best part is the science is going to prove the videos are real, because there's no way in hell these videos can be fake if the science is real, because that science is not even mainstream today in 2024. These videos are from 2014. In 2014, there's nobody on the planet that could have realized these videos were legit. Science just hadn't caught up yet. Even in 2024, the only way we even figured this out is by digging through like 40 years of history, really more like 100 years of scientific history. Crazy, right? Yeah, let's turn on the juice and see what shakes loose, baby. God damn, I'm excited, chat. Whew. I'm even scaring myself, chat. I'm scaring myself with how much science that I've learned and how quickly I've like learned it. Now, I don't believe in downloads or any of this stuff. That's not what's happening. I haven't had any future humans beam information into my head. I've just been learning it slowly over months and months and months. And I have a long way to go. But I understand it well enough now to realize this is 100% legit. This is legit.
It's a force-free vortex, and it naturally wants to stabilize in this form. And it's like the tip of the vortex connects to the other side and keeps it stable in the vortex ring. Ken Shoulders launches tiny ones with a known charge on a capacitor, a small capacitor. They're all the size of a micron. He realizes these clusters can travel on the dielectric, hit a witness plate, and create craters and damage high melting point ceramics. And he knows that that's
this is Bob Greenyer right here, guys. Low energy nuclear reactions, like creating the craters. I forget what he called them. Crenellated, whatever. This is like what Bob Greenyer has been talking about. This is why Bob Greenyer went kind of all in on this. Now, I highly respect Bob Greenyer. I don't think he realizes this explains gravity as well. This explains all. Like, if he just watches this video, he should come to the same conclusion. Like, 0 point energy explains gravity and explains plasmoids as well. The fact that it explains everything that we don't understand, including balls of coherent energy, should startle people.
There's excess energy from these experiments because he knows how much energy put on the capacitor. It's very small. The important thing was abruptness in the discharge and getting a liquid melt on the tip of the electrode. It's observed they have the equivalent charge of 10 to the 11th electrons, 100,000 ions. The charge to mass ratio typically always becomes what the electron is. The typical is the charge to mass ratio of the electron, and they contain excessive energy. They can form into chains, which is unusual because they're different charges, but we heard from Dr. Polak's talk how in a media, right, like charged things can attract as long as there's positive ions in between that cause the attraction. The positive EV is very significant. He didn't make very many of those, but he noticed likewise their charge to mass ratio was like the positron, but they were not, it was not comprised of positrons. So Ken believes, and I think he's on track with this, that he is onto the essence of what it is to make a pair, make a particle from the vacuum itself, from the substrate. I think he's hitting on the nature of what's going on in pair production, except at a macroscopic level. We're on the order of a micron here. He sees pairs. In his experiments, they call them dual EVs. EV stands for electron volittum, stood for strong charge. He later called them EVOs for exotic vacuum object. Once he was convinced he was tapping into vacuum energy as part of the self-organized conglomerate.
I did not know that. It's literally called exotic vacuum object because Ken Shoulders was convinced they were tapping in to 0 point energy. Holy shit. That's why it's called the EVO? How did I not know that till just now? That's why it's called the EVO. I mean, it should be obvious in retrospect. It's why it's called vacuum. They're literally tapping into the 0 point energy. That's why it's an EVO. I mean, Jesus Christ. I mean, chat. I'm even blown away. I already watched this and I'm still learning new stuff.
Black EV, after he makes them, they can go dark. And he doesn't see them, but they're sitting on the substrate, and a small electric pulse brings them back to life. And they start emitting light again. his biggest energy anomaly was create a water vortex, a small water vortex through a hole, and shoot one of these EV through the hole. He said that was such a powerful pulse. He could not find any way to tap it. And he wanted to share this information with Peter Greneau because this was the best of the exploding electrical discharges in water experiments. Peter Greneau is famous for doing that. Peter did photograph a plasmoid form in high-speed photography and was creating anomalous energy, anomalous force, and this experiment is the best. The only problem is he can't find a way to tap the energy. That energy is so concentrated, it damages anything it hits. The analogy used was like shooting a bullet at a windmill blade. Terrible impedance mismatch. So here's a summary of the charge cluster anomalies. They adhere to dielectrics, they can clump together, they bore holes in the high melting point ceramics. He says that it disrupts the electron bonds is not by heat. The energy's there coherently, it causes the electron bonds just to let go, and then as they fall back to the ground state of the material, then that's when the heat gets produced.
Wow, the bonds just let go. So the electrons just start to float freely. Wow, this is very similar to superconductivity. To answer, hey, Ocean's question, what about dark energy? Dark energy is the ether. Dark energy equals negative energy equals the ether equals the quantum foam, whatever. That's what dark energy is. It's not a mysterious substance. It's the same issue. I mean, this literally answers every physics question that's out there. Every physics question is answered by 0-point energy. Crazy. Man, Ken Shoulders was a G, dude. And people tried to discredit Ken Shoulders, but the stuff that he did, he was 1000% legit. I forget what he invented, but his inventions were, this is like how Hal Puthoff invented like the tuning laser, like one of the first tuning lasers. Like these guys are 1000% legit. And people just discredit them because they like, oh, well, Hal Puthoff researched remote viewing, and Ken Shoulders did this plasma stuff. Well, it turns out Richard Feynman, the same Richard Feynman from the Manhattan Project, the one with the teaspoon of energy, whatever can build the Earth's oceans, or the cup of energy, he had to apologize to Ken Shoulders. At first, he thought Ken Shoulders was out of his mind, and he had to come back and he was like, he did the math, and he goes, actually, you might be right. Pretty crazy, right? The same freaking Richard Feynman from the Manhattan Project.
And also claims of element transmutation and radioactivity reduction. So when we transmute elements, that's our strongest evidence there's something really energetically strange and anomalous going on, and strong evidence for vacuum energy coherence. So we looked at experiments where people are claiming element transmutation for clues. Ken Shoulders was doing it, but at low energies. He presented the work at the Cold Fusion Conference number 10, and you would get nucleosynthesis across the periodic table, not just moving one nucleus over to an adjacent nucleus. You would get this bizarre result. He's not the only one. Adamenko in the Ukraine, the Proton 21 laboratory, probably they have the best transmutation experiments on the planet. They make a very pure target of copper. They hit it with a plasmoid, a big plasmoid, about 1 centimeters in size, and they create supernucleosynthesis. They call it super because it's like a supernova, what a supernova does. They're getting transmutation and production of elements all over the periodic table. They have professors hired to study this. They create new theories of the nucleus, trying to explain it. Yet this work is completely ignored in the West. They have a conference nearly every year on ball lightning and cold nuclear.
Literally just ignored in the West. So why is the West ignoring this? Because we're classifying the shit out of it. Because this is dangerous. This is why you can only find the papers in Russia and China and stuff, because they're not suppressing as much, because they're behind. We're ahead, right? Whenever I play the game, I used to play this game called Civilization. And in Civilization, you're advancing up your tech tree. And when you're the person who's furthest advanced, you don't want your technology to get stolen by anybody else. When you're the person that's not furthest advanced, if they're up here and you're way back here, then you want to steal all their technology. You don't care about revealing stuff that these people already know. So this to me is very strong evidence that the United States is more advanced than Russia and China because they're not bothering to suppress this stuff. I think I saw another question. Yeah, Bendini, Bearden, Shoulders, these guys were like, didn't get nearly enough credit. They deserved way more. And the fact that these people were able to publish this and talk like they did, they took huge risks. You don't see Hal Puthoff talking about it. He just publishes whatever he can publish that he won't get censored. He probably gets like a nod before he publishes, Puthoff does before he publishes those papers. And why did they let them publish papers? People are going to say, if this is real, why are they allowed to publish these papers? Well, first of all, because everybody just fucking ignores them. There was no Ashton Forbes to come along and be like, I've got this social media following. I found all this science. And the other reason is because now they have plausible deniability. The moment they have to admit that this is all real at some point in the future, they can say, we never lied about it. These guys published all the science. It was all out there the whole time. This is how the intelligence communities operate. They're very stealthy. They don't work in direct ways. They work indirectly. They build these narratives that they want to have get spread around. This is also why I think that Elizondo and George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell have strong ties to the intelligence community. They may be in different factions than the Peter Thiels. I really don't know, and I don't care. But you can see the machinations of developing this plan and this narrative to get out to the public. And I just hate that shit. I hate narratives. I hate plans and all this bullshit.
Transportation to study this effect. It's well repeated, and it's a shame we won't look at it because we have the quark model, and the Nobel Prizes have been given out. And this strongly implies there's more to a nucleus than the quark model.
And now you see the other part of it. We can literally we can just summon or whatever. We can materialize hydrogen directly out of the ether, and we can transmute elements with this. This is God level powers. And what's another reason other than national security? Because we gave out Nobel Prizes to people that don't even deserve them, that the other people that do deserve them never got any of the credit. So now we're in this spot where science can't admit that they were wrong. Physicists can't admit that they were wrong because we already gave out all these accolades to people. This is why Stephen Hawking's great. You know, he did all this work, but I respect Tom Bearden infinitely more than I respect Stephen Hawking, because Tom Bearden was in the Black Projects and figured all this stuff out. Stephen Hawking was a science celebrity, like Neil deGrasse Tyson is, right? These are not the people you should be revering. The people you should be revering are the ones and the scientists that we've been talking about. These are the people that have pushed science further than the public is ready to accept.
And then probably the most spectacular thing was that I learned was this year on Mark LeClair's claim of maybe creating transmutation with cavitation bubbles. What he did was, here's an assembly. It's a very simple experiment. This is a very beefy pump. That's a 25 mile per gallon swimming pool pump. He rolls up aluminum veer. It has many decorative holes in it. The holes are very important. Puts it in the pipe. Here's it assembled. And there is where he starts the pump with the input valve on the right. So the experimental setup looks like this. He has a water bucket a couple feet below, so it can help create cavitation bubbles. He starves that pump down to about ½ a gallon per minute. The pump emits a loud squeal. He's constantly adjusting the valve to keep it at that acoustical range around 5 to 7 megahertz, just to keep that squeal going, right? And he warns, he says, he gave himself the illness of symptoms like radiation poisoning because he sat too close to it for half an hour or an hour as he was constantly fiddling with the valve to do this experiment. Nonetheless, when he rolls out the aluminum veneer, he's getting a ton of elements. That white blotch is carbon in the diamond form. He's used laboratories to do the analysis. They have nucleosynthesis, once again, all over the periodic table. Unusual isotopes were measured. And he noticed that they were multiples of the helium nucleus. And he says, wow, this is just like what happens in supernova experiments. So the big action item.
This is just like what happens in supernova experiments. If you don't understand why that's really important, he's talking about transmutation. We think that all the gold on Earth required multiple supernovas for those elements to form. That was all bullshit. We can literally transmute elements. I'm only now realizing how huge this is. Transmutation of elements will collapse the world economy. No doubt. Gold will become valueless. I don't invest in gold. Just throwing that out there, guys. Gold is going to collapse. Silver, all elements, because we can just transmute that. Doesn't mean they're going to go to nothing, but over time we'll be able to get cheaper and cheaper as we can, transmute elements for cheaper and cheaper. And precious metals and what have you are going to lose their value majorly. It won't happen immediately, but over the long run, absolutely. This is massive. This is a huge disruption to the economy.
What Mark wants and why it came forth is replication for this. It's an easy experiment. Just warns, protect, shield yourself from it, or work the valve remotely, and repeat this experiment. If this is probably our strongest evidence. If we can get it that easily, it changes the world. So what Mark discovered, that we have a collapsing cavitation bubble near a surface. It emits the reentrant jet. This is standard hydrodynamics. They know that. In the reentrant jet, there's incredible pressures, and this is where we're building. Under those pressures, like over 300,000 psi, a new form of water appears. It's a macroionic water crystal simply formed from the severe pressures that takes us up into solid state pressures. All of it concentrated in the tip of the reentrant jet. We're at the nanoscale here on that tip. All the energy of that collapsing bubble went into making the reentrant jet. And when that jet hits any surface, it damages it. What Mark learned to do was shoot it through a hole. And then it builds up a head of steam, and then it hits the next plate over, and then it creates the transmutation. So having the holes were important. Here's a model of the water crystal.
Sorry, this message here by Mr. Wolf is pretty crazy. You use phase conjugation, constructive phase conjugation. So instead of destructive, you amplify your long waves. You create a non-destructive in and out folding vectors that can work through electron shells and into the nucleus. So this is how you can literally just transmute elements, theoretically. And yes, Star Trek replicators. Star Trek was right about basically everything. Wormholes, warp drives, replicators, teleportation. I don't know about the teleportation in Star Trek, but at this point, I'm not ruling anything out. I mean, they're batting like 1,000. So I don't know. Maybe they'll miss on one. Not sure.
And at the tip of the crystal is what he calls the plasma shock wave. And that's where he believes the 0-point energy coherence is occurring. And what struck me, that's the same thing as shoulders EVs, the same thing on that tip. And the same anomalies are observed, cutting through trenches through high melting point ceramics like aluminum oxide. The structure has a linear chain of OH molecules, or isomers of water, but it's in a linear form in the solid state crystal. Chris Ekman, who presented at the MPA, there's a paper on him in 2010, found evidence in Brown's gas measurements of linear isomer of water. And so if that chain can close into a ring to be stable under perhaps half a micron, and if to stabilize it, it has to be a form of Rydberg matter where the electrons are up at the d orbitals. You have energy stored in a coherent fashion down in a microscopic water bubble or water crystal ring that, when it's ignited, converts into an EV plasmoid. Right? So we have a connection between Mark LeClair's discovery.
Wow, the ring converts to plasma. I'm gonna have to stop in like 5 minutes because I have to get some food here, but let's see how. Oh, it's almost over.
Of this water ring and the EV, meaning that in these Brown's gas experiments, this could be the storage mechanism where we could actually get energy stored in this form of water that we can reuse later. And my first talk over yesterday was on this very topic. And that all the slides, and they're annotated with the speaker's comments, can be downloaded from the same website that you'll download these slides from, and you'll have all the information of yesterday's talk written there. So therefore, the similarity between Ken Schiller's EV's discovery and Mark LeClair's discovery, the anomalies were so similar that we now have, I believe we're dealing with the same phenomena. And it's a miracle, it's an absolute miracle that we could actually store it in water in that way. And all these anomalies around these greenhouse gas electrolyzers can be explained by that component. If we get a lot of these entities circulating, we can create coherence by vortex action. The Beltrami vortex, we credit Don Reed, our audience. Let's give Don a round of applause. He's been doing work since the 70s on this. I think he's been terrific as far as, I like to acknowledge my references when they're in the audience. Go back. So if I just did the force-free vortex, he showed a lot of the Beltrami vortex, dug up a ton of support for this idea. But basically the curl is in the vector is in the same direction as the vector. And likewise, its magnetic field. It's a natural form. Plasmas want to organize this way. They do pair production in the plasmas. Tourbillon plasmas launch pairs, counter-rotating pairs of vortices in the plasma. It's just like pair production in the vacuum. Excuse me. They close in the plasmoids. We can look for anomalies in tornadoes, and they're essentially, you can see, they're essentially plasma entities. And we had these guys last year with you, thunderbolts. So that could be a dark matter explanation. Who knows? We can make technologies. Lots of free energy machines were invented around this principle. Schauberger is the most famous. He gets this anomaly with a vortex water jet turbine. People were saying it's over unity and things like that. Of course, nobody believes them. And then Wells, with a similar thing, using a working fluid of cooking oil, did the same thing, very similar turbine, presumably being a self-running device. One of the later ones of this last decade is the key to unlocking the vacuum. We see it over and over again in different ions, inert gas clusters. We have the charged water gas clusters associated with Brown's gas from Prigoghine's work, creating the water. It's the highest density of water. You can train the vacuum inerts. So basically, the zero-point energy and the self-organization coming from Prigoghine's work create the energetic clusters of plasmoids or inert gas, the UVs, and now the cavitation reentry jets can have it at the tip of those reentry jets in the water crystal, and then making larger form vortices of plasma and the various implosion technologies. So the real key to changing the world is share the information, get it up on the web.
Sorry, the end is my favorite. He says, what is the key? Sharing the information. It's not about building it. It's all been built. Look at all that stuff that was built out there. It's all out there. It's just about sharing the information, waking people up to what's possible. Somebody mentioned the thing about gold up here. The debt, this is all a joke, man. This is politics. Politics, the economy, these are all systems of control. Money only has value because we perceive that it has value. What you can see from this science is it's going to shatter their world's economy. Honestly, this is scaring me a little bit more because now I can see that this is like a threat to not just private military contractors, but definitely anybody in the energy, pharmaceuticals, a bunch. Now, if you guys want to know more, check out my Investigate Earth podcast. Somebody mentioned something about plasma entities. I actually talk about this. I talk about this on the Investigate Earth podcast earlier today. It'll probably drop tonight or tomorrow. What if consciousness comes from the zero-point energy, from the ether? And what if any consistent flow of energy that's perpetual, like a coherent ball of energy that's just constantly extracting energy from the ether, what if it can be conscious? Man, now I'm starting to understand why Salvatore Pais thought about this idea of conscious plasma and why Joseph P. Farrell might be talking about it as well. Pretty awesome, guys. I'm not going to play us out with any song tonight because I do have to go run to get food before everything closes. Thank you, guys. This was an awesome stream. I have another quantum mechanics video that I want to watch. Maybe we'll watch it tomorrow night. I also want to beef up my list of talking points for the Candace Owens interview. I want that to be the best interview I've ever done. So I've been practicing all week. Going to keep going on it. Love you guys. Share the information. Let's figure this thing out. And if anything were to ever happen to me, even though I don't think it will, but if it were, I want you guys to take my place, share the information, make sure it gets out there to the world, because it's up to us. It's dangerous, but it's up to us to decide our fate. Not all these talking heads, not the intelligence agencies, not these other people, not the corporations or whatever. So love you, MH370X. Peace out. Have a great night. Later.